begin, I want everyone here to take their finger and draw a tiny circle in the air, just like this. Even the ones that pretended like they stopped doodling in 5th grade, you can do that too. And inside that circle, I want you to write everything that people expect you to be. What people expect me to be. Now, erase it completely, because my talk today is about everything that happens outside this circle. The gift of not fitting in. I didn't choose this topic. This topic chose me. The moment I entered 3rd grade, I walked into the class with full confidence. And then my classmates decided that I was different, all because of the way I spoke, my stutter. And then they treated me like I was some kind of entertainment button. And that was my welcome ceremony. So later, naturally, I became a class clown. Not because I tried, but because I was naturally very loud and very curious. And I asked questions like nobody needed. Like, for example, why is the letter A pronounced A? Or why is the water wet? Or why do we have to write with our fingers? Why not our toes? For me, these questions were very important. And I've also realized much later in life that some of the major breakthroughs that we see occurring happen because of these important questions. The most famous one, why did the apple fall down from the tree? Every PTM, my teachers would call my mom and they would say the same thing. Your daughter, Kashvi, oh, she's very smart, but she's very capable, but she's very, very talented, but she needs to learn how to adapt with her peers. She needs to tone down. And then this but followed me everywhere. Apparently, I wasn't a girl, but I was a grammar conjunction. Even worse, actually, this one time, a teacher called my mom and she told her, I sometimes question if your daughter is actually a girl or not. Even the guys behave better than her. I still don't know what that means, but okay. During 4th grade drama class, everything changed. I was being my natural clown self, and I was just throwing a tantrum, not really caring, doing my own thing. Then my teacher came up to me and she told me, Kashvi, if you're not serious about this, just don't be a performer. Performer. That word really slapped me awake. Because honestly, when I was young, my mom put me in everything. She put me in dance, she put me in music, she put me in art. But drama, that was the one thing that I felt so passionate about. So when I went back for my next class, I gave it my 100%. My teacher saw that, she encouraged me, and she put me in everything. And because I was the only girl, and since I had a pixie cut, I was also made to play Indian uncles on stage more than actual Indian uncles on real life. That's me. But what people didn't know was that beneath all that loudness, there's actually a private battle that I was struggling with. To be very honest, being a class clown was just a coping mechanism so I could feel like I fit in or I could blend in with my peers. But that backfired very quickly. I was brutally bullied for the way I spoke, my stutter and my stammer. I was so scared to speak. I was afraid to open my mouth. I was afraid of the laughter, the mocking, the imitations. People didn't even wait for me to finish my sentence before they finished it for me. Wrong, exaggerated, and cruel. Speaking became something that just made me feel small and exposed. But during those moments, the support I received from my mother and my teachers really changed me. They were my safe space. They encouraged me. They told me that I could speak before I even believed in myself. And they held me up when my own voice couldn't. That's when I realized something. I kind of love speaking. I mean, even standing here today, I really like it. I like the attention. And I loved public speaking. So I went after everything. I went after every public talk, every MUN, every chance to hold the mic, because I loved the way the words met the electricity of the air. And that's when I've noticed that I have something in me that I shouldn't be hiding anymore. Speaking became something that I felt more confident and more capable in. And to be honest, I wasn't even perfect. In fact, the quite opposite. I was terrified, but that's exactly why I did it. Because if speaking is something that I'm scared of, then speaking is exactly what I need to do. So I ran after the very thing that scared me. You know, people often say that don't be afraid. Well, thank you, but that's kind of shallow. Fear, like any other emotion, has its own purpose. It reminds us of why we started, what we're trying to protect. For me, fear is my best friend. It pushed me, it shaped me, and it made me into the kind of person that I am today. I always thank my fear. But of course, there were some people that still continued making fun of me. For example, I vividly remember a day before my assembly, I was selected as one of the speakers, and my classmate came up to me and he said, "Kashvi, please don't speak tomorrow on stage because you're gonna end up embarrassing all of us because of your stutter, and it's just gonna be really ridiculous to see you." He even went as far to make a bet with me, and he said, "I bet you 500 rupees that you're gonna stutter tomorrow on stage." And I was just like, okay. I'm still trying my best because I still just wanna step out of my comfort zone. So I stayed up the entire night on a call with my best friend, Akila, practicing every single line, every single pause, every single breath. And the next day, I didn't even stutter. Not even once. Not then, not never. And I'm still waiting for my 500 rupees. I still didn't receive it. Later, when I turned 13, I've realized that life can be hard sometimes, and I was posed with the most ridiculous question and the most violent question of my life. Can anybody guess what that is? I mean, we've all been asked this at some point in our lives. What do you want to be when you grow up, beta? Yeah. And, well, since I come from a family of doctors, the expected answer was a doctor. Well, that was also part of my answer, but I said, well, I want to be a doctor. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be Miss Universe. I want to be the president of America, maybe an artist. Oh, and an actress. Adults being adults told me, no, this won't work out. Be more practical. And I said, wait, why? And then they said, because I'm an adult and you should trust me. And then that's when I realized something very important. Adults love shutting down dreams like it's a personality trait. Around 10th grade, everything in my life felt like it was falling apart. Okay, I know you guys are laughing at my Chandramukhi picture. Thank you guys so much. But around 10th grade, everything in my life felt like it was falling apart again. I tried really hard. I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to blend in. And I just wanted the stable identity so I could feel like I belonged somewhere. And technically, I was popular, but I still did not fit in with my peers. I didn't think like them. I didn't feel like them. And then I realized that things were just all falling down, no matter how much I tried holding it together. That's when I joined counseling, one of the only students in my grade who did. And I've learned something very important. Those sessions changed me. That also made me become a peer counselor to help other students, help them, and realize what was actually bothering them, because I know what it's like to be in that position, to fight in silence. When I was a teenager, I was scared to go to school because I truly felt like nobody understood me. And maybe I was just an outcast. Later, there was this one philosophy that really helped me understand myself. Friedrich Nietzsche spoke about the herd and the individual. The herd always wants the sameness, the obedience, the predictability, but the individual, the one who questions, who thinks and feels differently, they don't blend in because they're not supposed to. Nietzsche said, the individual has to always keep himself from from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Not fitting in wasn't my weakness, it was my direction. My teenage years were messy and they were brilliant. People tried to box me in. They tried to push their ideologies onto me. But I wish I realized sooner. You weren't built for boxes. You were built for constellations. And constellations only make sense when you step back. Most innovators didn't fit in. In fact, the movie 3 Idiots that we really love and admire shows us how individuality can threaten the system. People often say that fitting in is more about safety and being comfortable, but fitting in is the fastest way to disappear. Not fitting in is survival. Not fitting in is your capacity to expand and show the world who you truly are. When I joined college, something shifted. I stopped shrinking. I became the first person in my college to actually win Miss Freshers, and that moment proved me that everything that I once felt ashamed of was exactly the reason why I stood out. I went against every traditional norm and tried every activity. I mean, I wore a suit in a medical college for the first few weeks instead of a kurti, because why not? That's also formal. And then, later, my classmate actually came up to me that day and she asked me, she said, Kashvi, why did you choose to study in an Indian college? Because if I were you, and if you would have gone abroad, you would have met so many people just like yourself. Creative, outgoing, and so smart. And then I looked at her and said, exactly, I would be so comfortable, I would be safe. But over here, I can be the change that I want to make in this world. You know, college taught me two things. When you stop trying to shrink, people eventually make room for you. And when you walk into a room with your full identity, you allow other people to do the same by opening the similar door for them. Well, I'm a 19-year-old medical student studying physiology, biochemistry, anatomy, but I'm also a model, an aspiring actress, an NGO founder, a podcast host interviewing scientists, doctors, astronauts, and I'm also a brand ambassador for a global satellite mission aiming to educate 16,000 girls from 108 countries. I'm a mental health advocate, speaking to women and children that are stuck in abusive cycles. And oftentimes, people always ask me a question. They say, Kashvi, how are you able to do all of this? Because the most multitasking that I can do is just probably scrolling through reels while pretending to study and eating at the same time. And then, to be honest, okay, I've also been there. But the point is, when you stop trying to fit in, you finally grow into the best and the most possible version of yourself. And I know that almost all of us have this fear lurking in the back of our heads and the sneaky little whisper that always tells us that we'll never be good enough or you're falling behind. And it really doesn't help us when our parents love comparing us to the magically gifted cousin, Rajesh, who is somehow a doctor, an engineer, a gold-winning Olympic athlete, and also owns a chicken shop on the side. Like, how? How is this possible? Does he sleep? Does he eat? Is he secretly 3 raccoons in a trench coat? I guess we'll never know. And even I've had my moments like that, where I've compared myself endlessly. But once, during a therapy session, my therapist told me something that I initially found so funny, I almost choked on my own laughter. She said, Kashvi, every time you feel like you're falling behind, which you're not, set a 5-minute timer and take a pen or a pencil and drag it slowly across the air, making a half circle, very slowly, just so the timer doesn't end. And then, once when it ends, notice how nothing changed. You're still you, you're not falling behind, and everything is the same. I mean, at that point, when I first heard her, I found it really ridiculous because I was like, why are you telling me to just wave my pen around like a magic, confused, artistic wizard? That didn't exactly scream deep life lesson to me. But later I understood. The point wasn't about the half circle. The point was that time didn't run away from me. It moved with me. And this is the truth that most of us forget. Time is not against you. You're not falling behind. And you don't need to be Rajesh, PhD, MD, gold-winning chicken entrepreneur to be worthy. You are enough. And honestly, you're doing just fine. So now, I want each one of us to take our finger again and draw that tiny circle again. And inside it, write down all the things. What do people expect me to be? Anything that comes to your mind. And outside of that, draw a bigger circle. Because that bigger circle is exactly who you are. And that bigger circle is exactly where I built my life, where mistakes become breakthroughs, where you realize that you're not a misfit, but you're unmistakable, where questions become power. And that bigger circle is exactly where I found myself. Well, I'm Kashvi. I'm a 19-year-old medical student. I'm Miss Universe Telangana 2025. I'm an NGO founder. I'm a mental health advocate. I'm a brand ambassador for a global satellite mission, and my message here is very simple. You're not meant to fit in. You're meant to expand. Or maybe you weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to stand here and give a TED Talk on this stage one day. Thank you.